Age of Wonders 4 was met with wide critical acclaim, from me included and reviewers across the board, generally scoring about an 8 or 9 out of 10. However, today, at the time of recording on launch day, there seems to be some issues, some cracks around the edges, and a whole load of negative reviews. When I woke up this morning, reviews for Age of Wonders 4 on Steam were mixed, having it come in at around 63% positive. In this video, I want to break down the criticisms, the anger and the frustrations. What are the issues that are coming about? We're going to talk crashes and beta branches, server issues, and some complaints around DLC or pricing, as well as, of course, a couple of gameplay critiques. Let's jump straight into the video. There'll be some new gameplay in the background to keep your eyes busy, but the thing that I really want to draw your attention to at the start is the number one issue that I've seen people complain about on Steam or wherever you get your complaints from, and that's this clip that you saw at the start of the video. Most of these negative reviews are about the game not starting, the game crashing too often. It's simply too broken to play, and naturally most of the reviewers have less than an hour, sometimes not even half an hour played, perhaps because they can't get the game to launch. Before evaluating that, I have a solution, or at least I think I do, and it was confirmed live on stream today with some commenters. Thank you so much for helping me. It's this: head to Steam and open up Properties on Age of Wonders 4. Once you open that up, navigate to the Betas tab, and here you'll have two options: none or a hotfix branch, a beta branch for emergency fixes. That is the one you should try. All of us who experienced a crash on the none, the default version, found that that other version, that hotfix one, worked better. I think we're still waiting for official communication from Age of Wonders 4, the team behind it, but I'd strongly suggest you give that a go. And of course, do your housekeeping. Make sure that you've updated your graphics drivers and that sort of thing as well, just to give yourself the best chance possible. I think evaluating this issue, it seems to be a large but still minority of players whose game is crashing. Sorry to crash into your video, it's your favorite neighborhood lizard man here. Just want to say, hey, why don't you subscribe? We're growing fast and you don't want to miss this train. There's lots of lizards and dragons and all sorts of stupid stuff. I'm going to stop with this dumb tangent and let you get back to the video, okay. It's hard to say whether they simply don't meet the system specs, if there's a compatibility issue with a certain type of hardware. It's obviously too hard for me to call. But I think with that beta version, that seems to be working much better for players. It suggests that if a fix is not already in the works, i.e. it's in a hotfix beta space, then it exists somewhere, right? There exists an ability for the game not to crash. And of course I can vouch for that, because you may have noticed there was an influencers, a word I'd really have a strong disdain for, but there was an influencers version. And that's of course the one that I've been playing and making the tutorial videos for the official Age of Wonders channel. It's also the one that all of the rest of the reviewers would have been playing, and that version doesn't crash. It didn't crash once for me. All of the live streams we've done, all of the videos we've done, not a single crash throughout the production of any of those things. So I'm confident that this is a blip, and I'm confident that there's a fix out there. In fact, there may well be one already. Next up, I want to talk about server issues. They were the other most significant complaint that rose up this morning. Official word from the Age of Wonders 4 Twitter account was that the servers were overrun. There was so much traffic, perhaps an unprecedented level, that the servers crashed, and they were working with their provider to make sure that more would come back up and online. And that, my friends, is kind of the server issue in a nutshell. There's no real need to dwell on that any further. It's simply a supply and demand. There wasn't enough demand. There was too much demand and not enough supply of servers, and that seems to be the issue. Next up, I'd like to move on to talking about gameplay. Gameplay hasn't really featured much in many of the negative reviews. Most of them, as I said at the start of the video, are more focused around the game crashing or simply not working. Now, those people may come through later and continue to perceive Age of Wonders 4 negatively. That's totally fine. You do you. But when it's fixed, when they use a different version, they may have a different outcome. Generally speaking, gameplay has been really well received, and as I covered off in my video, I think that's fair and justified. The 4X gameplay, the city building, the territory management that you're seeing here is incredibly solid. The yields all work really well. The map is interesting. It's full of events and people to meet and explore. I think that the gameplay is really solid. There are some weak spots, though. Some minor quality of life things. Trade, not rolling over, not a quick option to select it. The things I've mentioned before, having difficulty selecting units because you can't click their banners, and when one's sitting on a city, it gets a little bit frustrating. Small gripes. Larger ones, at least from what I've read, tend to focus, and I agree, around Navy and the sea. Not strictly because there's anything wrong with the sea in this game, but because there isn't really anything exciting about it either. It really fails in comparison to the level of interest on land. Sea tiles are pretty useless. You probably won't be building many boats, and naval combat is very simple. There's clearly room to expand and build on that, and like I say, I don't think it's fundamentally broken. It just doesn't have enough interest or pizzazz. Where are all of my terraforming spells to terraform the coastline, for example? Why are my battleships not more prominent, more powerful? And why is it that our armies hop on boats and then just ram the boats into each other instead of actually, shooting spells off the side of them or fighting on the DECKS or whatever? The point here is that there's more to do, but I don't think it's a fundamentally broken system. And by and large, gameplay complaints have been rare, at least in comparison to those complaining about crashes. I'd now like to move on, speaking of what more could be added. Let's move on to talking about price and DLC. Two things that I haven't really covered in any of my content so far, and I think we should take a closer look at it. When you purchase Age of Wonders 4, you have two options. You can get the base game, which retails at $50 US, or the premium edition, which retails at $90 US and includes 4 DLC packs that will be releasing over the next year. They've already been named, and we have some nice pictures and screenshots already taken from the Steam page to get a feel for the kinds of things that we should expect. Now, if you were to purchase the DLC separately, it would cost you $50 US, the same price as the base game. So purchasing the premium edition gets you $10 off. So is it too expensive? Is it a lot of money up front? Well, it is. But what are we getting for it? Because I have seen and heard many people complain about the price being too high when it's included in that premium edition. I've had people question which one should they get. Well, let's take a look. So Age of Wonders 4 Dragon Dawn will be the first pack. It'll release in Q3 of this year. And it's all about ancient dragon lords. From your dragon throne, forge empires inhabited by reptilian minions and use draconic magic to evolve your people into dragon hybrids. It includes a new dragon ruler type, a reptilian form, and new tomes. I think this one will be very popular with people. I hear a lot about people wanting dragons or reptiles, and this sounds like it has both. If you don't want to buy the premium edition, though, it'll be a standalone purchase for $10 US. Honestly, probably not a bad shout. The second pack, which will release in the last quarter of this year, is more expensive as a standalone. In fact, it's twice as expensive, suggesting there'll be a lot more to it. It's $20 US by itself. Its description reads, "The empires of mortals resurge after the devastation brought forth by the Wizard Kings. In Age of Wonders 4 Empires and Ashes expansion, players fuse magic and steel to unleash devastating war machines to drive the Godia back into the Astral Sea. It includes a new culture tomes. A new culture tomes? Question mark. It includes a new culture and tomes, empire building options, and story realm. So we're getting a world, we're getting more buildings or building options, as well as a whole new culture and tomes. Interesting. The final pack, valued at that higher price point of $20 US, is called Eldritch Realms. This one focuses on new story content, strange monsters, new racial forms, so we'll get new races like, ratkin or whatever. I notice it's a plural as well, so multiple potentially. Magical realms and locations bring a new dimension to life. So all 4 packs come together at a retail price, if you were to purchase them standalone, of $60 US. The best deal you could get on it would be $40 US if you purchased it through the premium edition. If you're sitting on the fence, it might be worth waiting, but if you're finding that you really enjoyed some coverage of Age of Wonders 4, it's your kind of thing, it's probably worth getting this. I think it reads as though it'll add a lot of interest and diversity into the game, and in particular focus in on some things that people really like dragons, right? And that's the DLC. And also the question of whether it's fairly priced answered. Of course, I can't ultimately decide your budget spending. That's up to you. I think it's not too bad. And I think also, considering the kind of development that we would expect from a Paradox title, it's not that unusual. Now on to my sort of concluding thoughts. I made this video because I wanted to discuss the negative criticisms around Age of Wonders 4, not to give airtime to particularly stupid reviews, but instead to sort of present some of the challenges that people are facing. The obvious motivation as well was that crash fix. I'm fairly confident that it will work for perhaps not all, but a lot of people whose game is crashing. Try swapping to a different version. You just might get lucky. And of course, I haven't covered off every single thing. There are other criticisms around the tome system being either too limited, not unique enough. I've read criticisms that the customization is actually so much, it's too much, that it takes away the individual character of each race, because you can just change their body traits and change everything about them. The lack of a specifically designed campaign has also drawn some criticism, with the individual realms and story realms not quite being enough to satisfy a group of people who expected more of a single-player campaign. I think that those criticisms have their value and have some fair points, but overall, the general review here from me is still a very positive one, and I stand by my comments that I think Age of Wonders 4 is a real contender for Strategy Game of the Year, and if it doesn't get a nomination, I'll be disappointed unless the rest of this year happens to have really stellar strategy games, in which case, maybe it's open season. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really enjoyed looking through the DLC and covering off some of these criticisms and controversy surrounding Age of Wonders 4. I hope that you're enjoying it. I definitely am, and there's plenty more where this came from. I'll see you next time.